everybody, it's Chris, and I've been covering the subclasses in the Player's Handbook for the Paladin, and I have already done Ancients Paladin, Glory Paladin, and Vengeance Paladin, and now it is time for the final subclass in the Player's Handbook, the Devotion Paladin. I mentioned in an earlier video that I'm doing these in order from the one I think is the least powerful to the most powerful. This is in my opinion, of course, so it's subjective, but Devotion is last for a reason. I think it is the most powerful paladin in the Player's Handbook. Now, stay tuned, because I will be doing a video where I cover the subclasses that aren't in the Player's Handbook, so that we can compare them to the ones that are in the Player's Handbook to see if the Devotion is the most powerful overall. But I do think it is the most powerful in the Player's Handbook, and I'm going to show you why in this video. So first off, the Oath of Devotion itself is got to be the most stereotypical paladin there is. If we look at their tenets, it's basically be honest, be brave, be honorable, protect the weak. So this is the most stereotypical paladin stuff you can imagine. It says, uphold the ideals of justice and order. The Oath of Devotion binds paladins to the ideals of justice and order. These paladins meet the archetype of the knight in shining armor. They hold themselves to the highest standards of conduct, and some, for better or worse, hold the rest of the world to the same standards. Many who swear this oath are devoted to gods of law and good, and use their gods' tenets as the measure of personal devotion. Others hold angels and their ideals, and incorporate images of angelic wings into their helmets or coat of arms. Okay, so that's what the Oath of Devotion Paladin is. Let's get into the features. So we're going to start at level 3, and we begin with the Oath of Devotion spells. At level 3, they're going to get Protection from Evil and Good and Shield of Faith. These are both okay spells. Neither of them are fantastic spells, but neither of them are terrible. We're going to get Aid and Zone of Truth at level 5, Beacon of Hope and Dispel Magic at level 9, Freedom of Movement, Guardian of Faith at level 13, and Commune and Flame Strike at level 17. And I'll just say that overall, this is an okay list. It definitely doesn't stand out. The only bad spell I would say on this entire list is Flame Strike. I think Flame Strike is a weak spell, though Paladins don't have a lot of area of effect. So at least it's an area of effect spell that they get. But expending your 5th level spell slot as a Paladin is a big investment. I don't think I'd ever do it for a Flame Strike, or there's probably a situation where I would, but none I can think of off the top of my head. But this isn't a bad list. So it's very so-so all the way through. Let's move on. We're also going to get Sacred Weapon. When you take the attack action, you can expand one use of your channel divinity to imbue one melee weapon that you're holding with positive energy. So that's the first thing to note, is it has to be a melee weapon, and it can only be one weapon. So if you're using 2-weapon fighting or something like that, it would only affect one of those weapons. Though I think in the case of most paladins, you're using one weapon at a time. For 10 minutes, or until you use this feature again, you add your charisma modifier to attack rolls you make with that weapon, minimum bonus of +1, and each time you hit with it, you cause it to deal its normal damage type or radiant damage. The weapon also emits bright light in a 20-foot radius and dim light 20 feet beyond that. And you can end this effect early, no action required. I guess if you want it to be dark, you might want to do that. This effect also ends if you aren't carrying the weapon. This feature is fantastic. Just absolutely fantastic. And I'm not saying this just from, I've done my whiteboard calculations. I have been playing a Devotion Paladin now for about 10 months. And under the new rules with this feature. And it is fantastic. I almost never miss with the character, thanks to Sacred Weapon. It also gave me freedom as I leveled up the character to be able to invest in charisma without giving up chance to hit. And of course, you want to get your charisma up with your paladin so much because your aura of protection is based on your charisma. Also, time and time again, been facing creatures that would have been resistant to the damage that I was doing with my weapon, except because I could do radiant damage, I could bypass that resistance. So in terms of the damage it deals, it's so much more than just adding to your chance to hit. The final thing I want to point out is that in my last video, we looked at the Vengeance Paladin that gets Vow of Enmity that gives you advantage to hit. Here we don't have advantage to hit, and we get a bonus equal to our charisma. And if we look at them in terms of just the math, and I already have, so if we look at my previous video where I was judging DPR on class-by-class basis, I took a look at Devotion, I took a look at Vengeance. Vengeance outdamaged Devotion. But the assumption of those calculations was that we didn't have another source of advantage. Other sources of advantage come up, and when they do, Sacred Weapon is so much better than Vengeance Paladin. When the resistances come up, which those DPR calculations didn't take into account, that's when Sacred Weapon is so much better than Vow of Enmity. I would take this feature 10 times out of 10 over Vow of Enmity. Never mind the fact that the duration here is 10 times longer, meaning that at those lower levels where you don't have as many channel divinities, you can pretty much have Sacred Weapon all the time. With my character, I can't remember the last time I was in a fight where I couldn't use Sacred Weapon because I was out of channel divinity. Though I should say that I save all my uses of channel divinity for this feature. So this, I think, is maybe the best feature that any Paladin gets at level 3. So level 3 altogether is 5 stars out of 5. It's as strong as you can get, in my opinion, at level 3 for Paladin. Then we're going to get Aura of Devotion at level 7. You and your allies have immunity to the Charmed condition while in your Aura of Protection. If a Charmed ally enters that aura, that condition has no effect on that ally while there. So it's suppressing it, it's not dispelling it. And Aura of Devotion is decent. Charmed effects come up. When they do, they're pretty devastating because usually Charmed is more than the Charmed condition. There's usually, riders that go along with it. So if your allies are dominated, for example, Aura of Devotion is what you need. Or if that barbarian gets dominated, the paladin can just move to the barbarian so they're in the aura. Now the barbarian has control of their character again. So Aura of Devotion is a decent feature, but Charm doesn't come up super often. This isn't something that's going to be effective every single combat, and it's okay. I would consider this a 3-star feature. So let's move on. We are going to get Smite of Protection at level 15. Your magical smite now radiates protective energy. Whenever you cast Divine Smite, you and your allies have half cover while in your Aura of Protection. The aura has its benefit until the start of your next turn. So what half cover will do for you is it will give everyone, the main thing is they all get a +2 armor class, including yourself. And of course you can get a pretty good armor class with a paladin, so +2 certainly is nice. But you have to use Divine Smite, and you only get it when you use Divine Smite for 1 round. However, at level 15, it is reasonable to assume that you will be using some kind of smite on most of your turns, but not necessarily always Divine Smite. Divine Smite tends to do the most damage of all the smite spells, but the other smite spells do other things that can be very helpful. So I would expect to be doing Divine Smite a good portion of the time, but not necessarily all the time. So this is like a +2 armor class to you and your allies who are near you. Now, eventually, we're going to get a 30-foot aura, and then it'll be a +2 to allies pretty much anywhere on the battlefield, unless you're really far spread out from each other, which can only really happen on big battle maps. But on your standard battle maps, once you have your 30-foot aura, everyone's in the aura all the time. But at level 15, not necessarily. However, it's +2 for you, +2 for allies close to you, probably half the time. I should also mention, just to be complete, that half cover also provides a +2 to your dexterity saving throws. that'll come up once in a while, right? Dexterity saving throws aren't all that rare. Now, I should also mention that this is not going to combine with half cover. So if you have characters who are using cover already, they're not going to get any benefit from this. Nevertheless, +2 armor class, about half the time, is about as good as +1 armor class all the time, kind of. Plus, you're going to be giving it to allies that are near you. Plus, you're going to be giving it to allies that are further from you once you gain a couple levels. With my character, I have found that I still use Divine Smite a lot. Now, I've kept my bonus action free, so I have my bonus action usually, and I often fall back on Divine Smite because it's the one I can cast for free. It is the one that's pretty good against pretty much anything. So I use Smite a lot. You got lots of spell slots at this level in Paladin. So, you use it to spike your damage. And I do it pretty much every round. I'll do at least some kind of Smite. I probably use Divine Smite more than any other Smite spell. So this will come up a decent amount of the time depending on your playstyle, because I have to mention this because as I've been talking about Paladins, there's comments down below from people who say they wouldn't use Divine Smite anymore. Well, then you wouldn't get any benefit from this. But for me, I would use Divine Smite. This came up with the Glory Paladin. The Glory Paladin had a feature where they got temporary hit points when they used Divine Smite, and I had a number of comments from people saying, well, that's pointless because I'm not going to use Divine Smite. Okay, for you, this is a 1-star feature. For me, this is a 3-star feature, and if I'm making a recommendation to my viewers, use your Divine Smite. It's just some extra damage. If you have your bonus action available, use your Divine Smite. Yeah, I mean, certainly if you need to push your enemy or you need to set up a Shining Smite or something, do a different kind of Smite. But if you're not sure what kind of Smite to do, Divine Smite is a great fallback to just do extra damage. And for me, this is a 3-star feature. And finally, our capstone, Holy Nimbus. As a bonus action, you can imbue your aura protection with holy power, granting the benefits below for 10 minutes or until you end them. No action required. Pretty standard. Bonus action, 10 minutes. 3 out of 4 of the Player's Handbook subclasses use that mechanic. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. You can also restore your use of it by expending a level 5 spell slot. No action required. And that's true of all 4 subclasses in the Player's Handbook. And I should mention that if we look at older subclasses, they don't necessarily have that ability. And we get 3 things. Holy Ward. You have advantage on any saving throw you are forced to make by a fiend or undead. So that's very specific. However, fiends and undead are maybe the most common enemies you're going to face at level 20. Maybe the most common. Dragons would probably be pretty common too. But nevertheless, it is specific, so it's not always going to come up. Radiant damage. Whenever an enemy starts its turn in the aura, that creature takes radiant damage equal to your charisma modifier plus your proficiency bonus. I would hope your charisma modifier at level 20 is going to be +5. And your proficiency bonus is +6, so that's 11 points of damage. And you do not have a 10-foot aura at level 20. You have a 30-foot aura, so you should be covering multiple enemies when you are fighting multiple enemies. So that's 11 DPR all around. No saving throw. It's just straight 11 DPR per enemy you hit, or per enemy in the aura, and it's automatic. And there's no action required. That's pretty good, actually. I mean, it's not a huge amount of damage. 11 points of damage at level 20 doesn't sound like a lot, but it's 11 points of damage that is additional damage. And an increase of DPR of 11, if you're fighting one creature, is good. That's a good DPR increase. And then sunlight. The aura is filled with bright light. That is sunlight. This also, like Holy Ward, is very circumstantial. In fact, I'd say it's far more circumstantial than Holy Ward is, because the number of creatures that take penalties in sunlight is pretty small. It's a pretty dramatic increase against some creatures, but against most creatures, it really doesn't matter. So Holy Nimbus is mostly about doing a bunch of extra damage. Nevertheless, it is a bunch of extra damage. And, if we use our bonus action on round 1, if we were going to do a Divine Smite, we're probably doing 2d8 or 3d8 damage, depending on the spell slot we're using. Well, with this, we're doing 11 points of damage, extra damage. That's comparable. So even on the round we set this up, we're not really giving up damage. And then on further rounds, it's increasing our damage. And it's decent. It's a 3-star feature. So if we look at the Devotion Paladin, it's 3 stars and 3 stars and 3 stars and 5 stars. So this is why I think it is the most powerful Paladin at level 3, is because it's got that 5-star feature at level 3. No other Paladin did. But as we move up, the other features are average. And I will say that with my Devotion Paladin, and what I'm going to do is in my next video, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give an update, because I actually did a video for that Paladin pretty close to when I started to play it. Now that I have 10 months of experience and the build plan changed and the total number of levels in the campaign changed, or at least was clarified, there's significant differences from what I presented in that video. So I think what I'd like to do is an update video for that character. So that's actually going to be my next video. We're going to go and take a look at that character again. 10 months of play experience. You can see where they're sitting now. The multi-class I ended up making, I'll talk about why. It was Oath of Devotion, and now more than Oath of Devotion. So that'll be my next video. But this is the Oath of Devotion. Because the other subclasses for Paladin did not have 5 stars at level 3 and averaged out to 3 stars per level, all of them did, Oath of Devotion ends up 2 stars ahead. Now the question is, how does Oath of Devotion or these other subclasses compare to previous subclasses? Because, there's subclasses that we know kind of edge on the weaker side, like Oath of the Crown. There are also subclasses that kind of edge to the more powerful side, like Oath of Watchers. Let's see how they compare. So that will be my video after my build video, where I bring in all the previous subclasses, do the same comparisons, and then we'll compare the whole works and see how they do. And then, as always, after that, I'll do a video on multiclassing. And obviously, I have a little bit of experience with multiclassing. As I just mentioned, I multiclass my current Paladin. But there are multiple good options for multiclassing your Paladin, so I want to talk about those as well. So, before I go, I do want to thank my patrons. So if you would be interested in supporting content like this, please click the link in the video description. I tend not to do promotional videos or sponsored videos, and the reason I'm able to do that is because patrons help me out. So this is my commercial. Please check out my Patreon. But today I want to thank Shura, Astonish, Awesome Face, BG4711 or 4711, Brandon Sargent, Christophe, Condor, Cinnamon, Dash Panther, David Lotz, David W. Skibbins, Eric H., Homoa, Ido, James Thomas, Jean-Baptiste Blanchette, Jeremy Brown, Jonathan Lexi, Justice Valdez, K.J. Aurelio, Kevin Casey, Crosidian, Quoth, Matt Schwobel, Migish, Reichenstahl, Rysquai, Saint Vidar, Starfall, Stephen Edmondson, TUM, The Algorithm, Tim Loy Moeller, and Trex. Thank you all so much for your support. And until next time, I am going to sit back, relax, and have some fun. D&D is for everyone. Thanks, everybody. I will talk to you soon.